Om Namo Narayana, Om Namah Shivaya, Shiva Om, Shivaham Om. Welcome to another satsang with your host, Chuck the Yogi from the Yogi Cave, as we roll our way through this long, dark, and cold winter together. And let's get to the fourth pada and see where we left off. I think I'm going to start at 4.29, which is quite a mouthful, so I think it would be a good thing to start there. Prasamkyane bi akusidasya sarvata viveka kyater dharma megaha samadhihi. For the yogin who is always non-usurious, even in the state of elevation, there follows, through the vision of discernment, the ecstasy designated as the Dharma cloud. So what does this mean? This means if the yogi or yogini is able to get through all the initial, even the subtle obstacles that do happen, and I've mentioned some of those, not all of them, but even if he is able to achieve that and reach an advanced stage of discernment, then there ensues what Patanjali would call the Dharma cloud. And what is the Dharma cloud? Well, that's a sort of sense of, it could almost be described as a sense of feeling like you're floating around. It's not so much a depersonalization disorder as psychologists would put it. It's more like a sense where you're not fully embodied. You don't feel like you're fully here in the sandbox, like you have a foot on the other side. And so Patanjali kind of describes that in a very colorful and technical kind of way, calling it the Dharma cloud. And this is how and why you see usually imagery, both in the West as well as in the East, of either bodhisattvas or Buddhas or gods or what have you, kind of floating around in clouds. I mean, there's more to it than just this literal interpretation of being up in clouds somewhere or flying. It's more like we're talking about a feeling more subtle and not completely here in the sandbox, being somewhere in between, an in-between kind of state, so to speak, even during regular life, if you will, for those that live regular lives rather than just lives as a monk, because not all of us can be monks living up in a cave somewhere. Some of us have to come down here and play in the stage or on stage or off stage or what have you, but some of us have to do this and get on a phone and talk on a phone. So this is what he's talking about here. 4.30 Tataha klesha karma nivrittihi. Thence follows the discontinuation of the causes of affliction of karma. So now Patanjali is starting to get into what could be understood as the final stages of attainment in yoga. And so part of that those final stages is being able to unravel all the karmic seeds, being able to rip them out, so to speak, from the garden of one's soul, therefore ensuring that there is a discontinuation of the cycles of birth and death. This is what he's talking about, or this is what he's getting to. So we're reaching the end, so to speak. 4.31 Tada sarva avaranna mala apetasya janasya anantyaj jeyam alpa. Then, when all coverings of imperfection are removed, little remains to be known because of the infinity of the resulting gnosis. So basically, you could construe this unraveling in yoga like being able to peel the layers from an onion. And then you get to that point where there's nothing left, right? One layer after another until nothing remains. But this nothing is not nothing, because the Buddha denied being a nihilist, so we have to avoid that extreme, because nihilism in yoga would be considered an extreme. We're getting to a state that is basically indescribable with words. So they use path of negation, so to speak, neti neti, as described in the Upanishads, not this, not that. And then whatever remains is. So I'm not going to get too deep into that because we'll never be done. All right. 4.32. Tataha krita arthanam parinama krama samaptir gunanam. Thence comes about the termination of the sequences and the transformation of the primary constituents whose purpose is fulfilled. Basically, that means that once you do everything you have to do, once all these things are fulfilled, all these karmas, then these primary constituents evolve or revolve back into their primary selves. So allowing the yogin or yogini to move on and out of the playground, because the playground is made of these primary constituents, these gunas, right? As we've explained before. So once the yogin is out and beyond, once all these karmas are fulfilled, the yogin is no longer trapped into the cycle of birth and death that comes about by this interaction between the gunas and so forth and so on. So this is what he's getting to. 4.33. Kshana pratiyogi parinama apara anta nil grahiyaha karamaha. So before I get into this sutra, I want to say, in my humble opinion, this is the most quantum physicist and most technical of all the sutras. So be warned. Sequence means that which is correlative to the moment of time, apprehensible at the terminal point of a particular transformation. So in my humble opinion, this is an allusion to quantum physics in the sense that, and the yogis understood quantum physics. Quantum physics didn't start in Europe. It started in the East. They may have explained it differently, but this is proof that they understood quantum physics, because basically what he's explaining here is that time, or time-space, is not continuous. Our brain creates the illusion that time-space is continuous, but, as I've explained before, just like the pictures on an old movie reel, when they move one after the other, they create the illusion of movement and continuity. We understand that it is simply an illusion. And so time-space, in that same vein, is an illusion. There is no continuity. There is something that sustains that time-space, but it is kshana, moment to moment to moment to moment. So this was understood by Buddhists, it was understood by the yogis of the Sanatana Dharma, and this is clear proof of the yogis' understanding of quantum physics as we in the West are now beginning to understand. All right. So 4.34, and I'm finishing the Yoga Sutra here after all these months, over half a year, right? How long has it been? We started in July, so it's been 6 months, 7, 8. So around 8-ish months, more or less. 4.34, Purusha alta shunyanam gunanam pratiprasavaha kaivalyam svarupa pratishtha vachiti shaktiriti. The process of evolution of the primary constituents devoid of purpose for the self is what is called the aloneness of seeing, or the establishment of the power of awareness in its own form. So basically what this means is that Patanjali is explaining the process of samadhi, or mahasamadhi, where all the primary constituents move back into their forms away from the yogin. They kind of come off, so to speak, as, for example, a slug or caterpillar becoming a butterfly. The old skin comes off, right? And the yogin is transformed into something more akin to that which is outside of this construct, which cannot be described. so he doesn't bother to even try. But he states basically that the power of awareness, the aloneness of seeing, this pure awareness is what remains. It's the only thing that Patanjali kind of describes, so to speak, in a kind of positive way, because he went the path of negation, neti neti, not this, not that, but he does maintain that what remains is awareness. So with that in mind, I'm going to finish this Yoga Sutra, and thank you for your patience for having been with me all these months. And when I see you again, we'll move on to the Shiva Sutra in a different context. I'll be setting up a different kind of rig to be able to do that, but I want to thank you for your patience and for having bared with me all these months of plague and coldness and changes and all the rest of it. Thank you. Om Namo Narayana, Om Namah Shivaya, Shiva Om, Shiva Ham, Jai Ma, Jai Mahakal, Shukriya. Till next time.